Are you a business looking for a fresh new way to reach potential customers? Well, you need to get airtime on IT TV, a 24/7 streaming and on-demand TV service online and on Roku. With Roku having a potential reach of 62 million people, it's a perfect opportunity to reach potential customers through affordable commercial and infomercial spots. Visit us online today at itnetwork.tv.
Good morning, and good morning. Happy Thursday. Thank you for tuning in to the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifah Hardie, and we have an incredible show for you today. We have some new friends. We have returning guests. It's going to be an interesting conversation, but I know there's someone in your network. There's someone in your house. There's someone, maybe a spouse, a boss. There's someone who is just now starting out in the business, and they may need this information. But they won't have this information unless you go ahead and share the show with them. So as I always say, hey, friends don't let friends miss out on the Roundtable Talk Show. So while you're sharing the show with your friends and your network, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest, Mr. Casey Gray, the Conscious Builder. Casey is the founder of the award-winning sustainable building company, The Conscious Builder, the host of the Conscious Builder podcast and the Conscious Builder show on YouTube, and the founder of the Conscious Builder Academy, an online course hub for future-focused builders who want to create better businesses. Good morning, Casey. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Okay, all we need now are the Conscious Builder shoes, the Conscious Builder shirts. We need some more. It's not enough Conscious Builders.
Conscious Builder work boots. Yeah, we're working on it. They got to be sustainable though somehow.
Somehow. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Casey. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you passionate about?
Yeah, so I guess beyond what you just read, obviously, you know what I'm involved with. It's all around construction and building better, more sustainable homes, and ultimately building healthy, comfortable, and efficient homes. We focus mostly on the residential world. That's what we do for part of the business, and then we have the educational side too, the Conscious Builder Academy, and we do a lot of free stuff on YouTube. Just sharing all the stuff that we think is so important because we spend the majority of time in our houses and we don't really understand what it takes to build. I say we, like most people, don't understand what it takes to build a healthy, comfortable, and efficient home. And that's what we're on a mission to do, is to make sure that everybody has that knowledge, that ability to live in that home if they choose to do so. So beyond that, married, I have a son, and my wife and I are actually going through an adoption process right now, which is exciting. So lots of good things happening in life, and I'm very much about I work a lot on business, but life, family is important too. So making sure that we combine those and everybody's getting along.
Wonderful. Well, we have some questions for you, Casey. We want to go ahead and introduce our next guest. So we'll be right back to you, the lovely Miss Teresa. Teresa is a physical therapist, author, consultant, speaker, and artist. She helps people improve their mental and physical space to have optimal health and function in life and business. Good morning, Teresa. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I have been a physical therapist for 36 years, and I'm very, very interested in personal development. And so I have pivoted to being an author. I authored the book, The Art of Assisting Aging Parents. And that's where I put my framework on personal development. And it, involves the body, the brain, and the spirit. And as I did this, I'm now reaching out to other populations. And to hop on to Casey's theme of your house and your surroundings, your physical space is just as important, to your brain as, say like food is to your body. And so I try to help people, ramp up their spaces in their head, their mental space, their physical space, their body, brain, and spirit, so that they can function at their highest level, in life and in business. And I teach therapists how to create these exceptional group experiences. And I noticed my patients were just thriving when we did group therapy with them. And, 15 years later, the research is there. Face-to-face interactions are critical for your health. So I also teach people that, how to be in a group and maximize their function.
Well, we have some questions for you, Teresa.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, Daniel Berkel, founder and executive director of Professionals in Transition Support Group, Inc., one of the oldest nonprofit organizations in America, dedicated exclusively to helping the unemployed and underemployed find work online and in person. Good morning, Damian. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
I needed you almost 20 years ago when I was trying to find work after 8 layoffs. I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh, I wish I could have been there to help. When you lose your job, it's one of the most traumatic things that you can ever go through. And in fact, there would be no professionals in transition if I hadn't lost my job down here in North Carolina and had no one, because I didn't know anybody, and had no one to help me and provide support, because I thought I was going insane because the highs were so much higher and the lows were so much lower. And we will be celebrating our 30th year in February of 22.
Wow, congratulations. Congratulations. I interrupted. Did you want to tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and what you're passionate about?
Sure. My bride and I will celebrate our 45th wedding anniversary next week on the 17th.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have 2 kids, 2 grown kids. I am passionate about helping people through the process of unemployment, because you've been cast aside and the world goes on and it's very disorienting and confusing. And as a result of that, I've actually written 2 books that have been published by HarperCollins. The first one is called Career Bounce Back, and the second one is called The Job Search Checklist. So that's very interesting. And then also we do a weekly show I do with Mark Anthony Dyson, and it's called The Modern Job Search Checklist. So between faith, family, and doing professionals in transition, it's a challenge, and I'm fully handicapped.
Oh, wow, you got a lot going on. Very interesting. But I enjoy the whole word bounce back. I think after 8 layoffs, I have definitely bounced back.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to come back to you, Damon. I want to go ahead and introduce my next guest, Mr. Brett Lavender. Brett
Hi
is the
there.
Hi.
First of all, thank you so much for asking me to join this. I'm very excited to talk about what I do and what I'm passionate about. I am the CEO and founder of a company called the Persuasive Lion, and I teach verbal and nonverbal communication skills to my demographic would be humans. I teach the lost art, what I would call, of eye contact, body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, melody, pitch, pauses in our communication skills, and most importantly, how we communicate with ourselves and how our self-talk, positive and or negative, affects how we operate in the world and then how others react and respond to us. And one of the fundamental programs that I've developed over the course of decades is called the Lost Languages. And when I say the lost languages, it's because of all the communication skills that we as humans, not just millennials, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and older have lost because of this. Because of the introduction of text messaging and Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and online dating. Speaking to one of the other panel members, talking about how important interpersonal communication skills are. That is what I teach. And I'll leave this part of the conversation by saying I am all self-taught. And everything that I've learned over the course of decades has come out of a very difficult set of life experiences that forced me to learn how to effectively communicate with others because I was on my own. And I found that the things that I teach in terms of these basic fundamental interpersonal, physical, and psychological communication skills are life-changing and very, very important, especially in today's world, specifically after COVID, that has put us behind these computer screens every day.
I love it, Brett. Communication absolutely is so important. I'm going to come back to you. I want to introduce our next guest. You have seen her here before. She was here last week and we laughed so much. We had so much fun, but we also learned a lot. For me, that's one of the most important things. The lovely Miss Minessa Konecky. Minessa is an optimization queen who helps women implement strategies for thriving online businesses so that they can create wealth and freedom without overwhelm and without burning out. Welcome back, Minessa. How are you?
I am so glad to be back. It is so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. It was a pleasure. I learned so much. Even your point about putting something interesting behind you so it stops the scroll. I learned a lot.
Jason.
Yes. I love watching him. So I would stop the scroll. Tell the people who weren't here last week, who didn't tune in, who didn't get that opportunity, a little bit about yourself, Minessa.
Hi. So I am Minessa Konecky. Hello. I am so, you guys, everyone I've heard your bios and what you do, I'm so in awe to be in your presence. Like I feel very privileged to be here. My passion is working with women with chronic illnesses or mental illnesses. Usually they're moms who have a framework of their life that makes it hard for them to work traditional jobs. So they usually start their own business, but you quickly find that it's taking over their lives and basically they have no time to do anything else. I work with them to basically eliminate all of the business junk that's like accumulated over the years, as, from various coaches and things, and only keep the stuff that works for them in their business so that they can create more time in their day, more freedom, and be able to work within the time limits are available, because when you're ill, you don't necessarily have the same amount of time that a fully able-bodied person would have. So my passion is to help them find success in the world.
That's wonderful. I love it. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Now, I want to go over to Damian. I have a question for you. One of the things that Brett was talking about is the change in communication and the change. But one of the things a lot of the guests on my show are talking about is the change in employment. There's this mass, of people who are just leaving jobs and employment as we knew it. What are your thoughts, Damian?
Thank you. The Great Resignation
that's it.
Is real, and it's driven by 4 different factors. The first is because of COVID and age. A lot of people have retired. Many have retired early. Then you have folks who just, I know this is kind of crude, but they basically say, take this job and shove it, and resign without a job, which to me is always very dangerous. Then you have people that go through this kind of undercover job search, which is what I recommend, so that you don't upturn the apple cart and accidentally cut off your nose to spite your face. And then you have the people that have been downsized, reorganized, fired, whatever you want to call it, as a direct result of COVID and company downsizing. And so what you have going on is you got a lot of churning going on in the market, and the people that are leaving companies are not the slugs. They are the top talent that can see that if they change jobs, they'll increase their pay. They won't get a 2% increase, they'll get a 10% increase. And one of the myths that have been busted is usually when I would look at a resume, if you've only been in a position for 2 years and then you change companies and then you change companies again, most people would think that there was a performance problem. But in fact, again, your top tier people are staying in jobs maybe 3 years, 4 at most, and then jumping to another company in a higher position. And the reason why I mention that is because that is then making companies more responsive to the needs of their employees rather. And some companies are doing a great job and allowing people to work kind of hybrid, like 2 days in the office, 3 days home. Then you have these other companies that say, you will come in 5 days a week, 9 until 6. And that's when people are saying, I've been at home now for almost 18 months and I'm going to find something better.
I definitely agree. Casey, were you one of those people who said, I got to work for myself? I'm not going back. I'm not going to work for anybody else?
I've worked for myself for 12 years now, so that's not me, but we are hiring and there is a labor shortage in construction. And that's always been around, but it's worse than ever. But Damian, what you were mentioning, I find is interesting because obviously when we work on site, we can't have people work from home, right? In terms, like, all of our people that are in the office are in home, but the people who are on site have to go to site. I'm finding that they're asking for more. We're definitely having to pay more, but then we have people that literally just don't get back to us. I don't know. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, because we have a very strict hiring process, and we put people through 3 interviews and we check their references and we go through everything, because we're more, yes, we understand that the pay has gone up, but we also want people who are going to be committed to our vision and want to plan to stick around long term, right? Money is one thing, but I think that we're a good company to work for, and we're flexible, and we can work with parents and understanding that you got to pick up your kids and the craziness of, school might shut down, kid gets sick. But I'm curious to know, is it just because of money and the fact that they can work from home, or are there other factors in there? Because in construction, you can't work from home.
And Casey, that's a great suggestion. And boy, I think it would be really neat to be able to work for someone that has the vision that you have, both for your company and for the way that you do business. But you're absolutely right. There are more factors involved in this. The workforce has become very stratified, and the way that one person looks for a job is not necessarily the way that another person in another field or trade would look for a job. And yeah, I mean, some of the things that I'm hearing is employers complaining that they can't find people. It's like, where do they go? Or 2, if we hire them, they don't get back to us. Or if they come in, I was talking to a good friend that has his own construction company. He said, or they come in and all they want to do is look at their phone all day. They don't want to work. And I certainly sympathize with what you're going through. But to your point, yes, there are multiple factors involved. And anytime that you try to lump something into a trend, there are, there's 10,000 people and 10,000 stories. That's the way that it is. But everybody wants to call it something. And that's how the term Great Resignation came about. Now, Casey, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think you did, because that's exactly the point, right? Everybody has their own story, right? We don't actually know what's going on a lot of the time. I just find it interesting. Like, there's no shortage of work, at least where I live, but there's still people who say that they can't find work. But I feel like there's definitely lots of opportunity out there if you're open to looking for it. But I don't know, right? That's your job. That's where you help people, for sure, right? And I'm obviously in my little bubble.
Can I chime in there, if you don't mind? So, speaking to both of what both of you are saying, we have devolved, I should say, into a society of isolation. And when you say, I forget which one of you said it, people want to go to work and then sit on their phones all day and communicate behind a text screen or Facebook or Instagram and see how many likes they're getting. That's not communicating in human terms, right? What I have found is that whether it's about interviewing for a job or going on a date or communicating as a manager or an owner of a company, we have lost the potential to communicate effectively and make a point versus sending a text that says, do this, do that, do the third. The reality is that people don't want to work right now because we've made it so easy on people, especially, this is prior to COVID, by the way, but as a result of COVID, we've made it so easy for people to sit in their home and get by with the very least connectivity, human interaction. And that is something that's very important in terms of human experience. I don't have the name in front of me, but whoever is the physical therapist, you're right. Interpersonal connections are priority today. And what I've found as it relates to what I teach in terms of making, effective, connected eye contact, utilizing the melody of the words that we speak, using our hand gestures effectively, using the way we think as a result of the way that reacts to our body, has been lost in translation.
Yes.
And the problem is, I'm sorry, I'll wrap it on this. The problem is, as humans, we think that just because we speak the same spoken language, let's just call it English in this case, that everybody should understand everybody else's point or everybody else's message. And that could not be the farthest thing from the truth, because what people have forgotten is that what they're thinking and what they want to deliver and what they want to tell people is not necessarily the same thing that their eyes are saying, or their mouth is saying, or their facial expressions, or their hand gestures, or their body language. And to take it deeper, their pheromones, the dilation of their pupils. We've lost the ability to utilize this machine. This is just a remote control. This is the drone. And 99% of the population that I encounter, those that I coach, whether it's corporate or personal, have literally lost the ability to connect a thought to the actual delivery method of how we communicate with people. And I always say this, and I'll leave it on this. The delivery of your communication is always paramount to the content. So how we think about something and then how we present it and deliver it is always going to be that much more valuable, connected, and important, overriding the actual content itself. So if we can get to that baseline, we can learn how to communicate more effectively as interpersonal human mammals.
I think you are right on, Brett. And I'll take it a step further. Just with my experience, I think there are people who have completely lost the way to communicate verbally and walk into doors because they're looking at their phone, and to kind of flip it to getting a job and working. A human resource manager, statistics show, will make their decision as to thumbs up, thumbs down in less than 10 seconds.
Yep. Cancel culture.
Yeah. Well, and before the candidate, the job searcher, even has a chance to open their mouth, the human resource manager is already going tick, 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 tick. How do they look? What is their verbal language like? Do they have a noodle handshake? Do they have a firm handshake, et cetera, et cetera? And the other thing is the number one issue in any company, I've been told and feel, is will you play well,
with others.
In the corporate sandbox. And if there is someone that's less qualified, but gets along better in a culture, and you're a company culture that is, and you're competing, then you're gonna lose. And that also explains why idiots get promoted.
Well, Damian, realistically, what you said speaks to the concept of there's no second chance to make a good first impression.
Absolutely.
I know as a keynote speaker, I am being judged and evaluated from the moment I walk on stage, before I even open my mouth. The way I scan the room, the way I interact, the way I use my gestures, I am being evaluated immediately. So in the interest of what you just said regarding an interview, you have to be able to walk into a room and own the room immediately, right? With your smile and your eyes and your connectivity. And then it comes down to hard skills like tuning this instrument to make it sound most effective. Understanding the nature of melody. For example, if we have time today, I'll show you a pretty interesting example of how melody, just the melody that you use when you speak, changes the entire content, the entire message of the delivery. And you know how many people that I realize understand this? Nobody. You know why? Because it's not taught at home.
Right.
It's not taught by your parents or your grandparents or their parents. It's not taught in elementary school, junior high, high school, or college. It's taught in the school of life, and that's the school that I come from. And I've found through my very harsh life experiences that there are certain ways of communicating a message just melodically, specifically, just fine-tuning it to just melody that changes the entire delivery and therefore the entire reception and response to what you're saying, therefore what you're thinking.
Absolutely. Now, I will tell you, there is one place where they teach the melody, and that's usually in seminary school. That's one of the things that they do teach them. But you're absolutely correct, Brett. That's one of the things that happened when in my divorce. My ex-husband would say, Sharifah, it's not your message, it's your delivery. And I'd be like, damn the delivery. Focus on the message. Hey,
Sharifah, it's always delivery. Listen to me. I can't infuse this enough into human beings. You know, when people ask me who's my demographic, human beings are my demographic. And I know that's a broad thing, but I don't care if you're a CEO or a soccer mom or an athlete or a performer or a presidential candidate. It all comes down to how you deliver your message. People will remember very little about the words you use. They will remember very little about the things you do, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
yes.
Always.
Absolutely. Yes. Teresa, you're quiet over there. The gentleman was just talking today.
Yeah.
I don't want to overdominate.
Okay. No, and I have a lot of thoughts. You know, you've got the wheels turning here. But also to your melody, I teach that in therapy too, and I teach the therapists how to use kind of a sing-songy melody.
Over-animate.
Yeah, yes. And it works. It really does work. But also chiming in on some of the other topics that you guys were talking about is, without this face-to-face interaction, we are becoming ill. Social isolation leads to chronic illness. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we realize this as we stay on our phones and all our social media. We don't realize we're really killing ourselves, And that the first step to getting that position or the job or the contact or the client is to be healthy. We have to be healthy, and we have to do that through the face-to-face interactions. Actually, the number one predictor of longevity is your face-to-face interactions. And it happens to be, they've studied this in Italy and in the blue zones. And your weak ties are the people that but it's like the grocery store clerk or the librarian, or it used to be the postman that went by, now we get our mail on and down the block. But anyway, it's those interactions you have every day. They're called your weak ties. And you can get, you can find a job through a weak tie.
Absolutely.
You can find out, where the best bakery is in town or the best pizza, or, when I go to these big cities, I grab a local. And I say, where's the best pizza? Where's the best brewery or whatever? But what I'm saying is we're losing this, and
lost,
it is
it's
lost. And it is vital for our health. And in my course, I unpack about 15 health benefits of being face to face with people. And it's the hormones you emit into your body. It makes you more empathetic, and it makes you. There are so many physiological reasons to be face-to-face with people. So get back in your groups. If you're not in any groups, get into some groups, start being with people and doing things with people. It brings out some competitiveness in you. You work harder. If you're going to go exercise with a group of people, you will work harder than if you just stay at home and exercise by yourself. There's that competitive edge we're always looking for. So it does make me sad that people are declining in that way. I see it out in the world, and it makes me sad. I feel like we're losing something, and maybe somebody can expand on that.
I can.
Actually, could I jump? Do you mind if I jump in really quick?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes,
I just want to jump in really quick. I'm sorry, Sharifah, go ahead.
No, it's okay, because I was going to come back to you, Minessa. I saw you were just like this, like watching this show.
I was like, God, I have so much to learn, and like everything that, like, Brett. First of all, I'm like going to follow you, like, it's my job, and because you're brilliant. But all of you made me think about. All of you made me think about so much stuff. But the thing that I wanted to jump on was what Teresa just said, just because, it's nice to be in a space where we're having a conversation of things that I've been thinking about for a really long time, but haven't really had the conversation really. So this is really exciting. But the one thing that Teresa brought up, and I think we're all saying is that, but in losing this and in this lack of, in this isolation that has happened, one of the issues that we're all going to run into, I have really bad social anxiety. Like for many years, I couldn't, if I go up to people, if I see a person and they come up to me, it's like, ah! I'm very afraid.
That's fixable, by the way.
Oh, I've sorted it now. It's all sorted now. But yes, you're absolutely right. It is absolutely fixable. But for many, many years, that was my fear. And so over the years now, I've spoken in front of, 25,000 people. I'm not afraid of, whatever. I don't care anymore. But I didn't start there. But I still, when I go into networking groups or new spaces that I'm unfamiliar with, it triggers the cortisol. It triggers my anxiety. It triggers a lot of things. So one of the things that I want to recommend is that for people who hear this and your immediate thought is, oh my God, I can't go outside, which there's a lot of people who are thinking that right now, like that's not happening. How do I get this back without seeing people, right? Which you can't, you have to see people. What I recommend is wherever you go, this is my secret, know where the bathroom is. And everywhere I go, and I do this all the time. I've even places where I speak and I am like the speaker. So everybody knows who I am and what I'm doing. I will, if I feel anxious, I'll just go hide in a bathroom stall for 10 minutes, do a meditative thing. Because no one notices that you're going to the bathroom. Sometimes I thought, oh my God, people are gonna be like, why is she going to the bathroom every 10 minutes or every hour or like whatever? I'm like, nobody's paying attention to my bathroom habits. So you go in, you do your meditation, you come back out, and now you're good for another hour. It's a really great way to kind of like break the seal and give yourself the opportunity to ease yourself back into being around people, especially if you're someone who is, who maybe suffers from PTSD, so can't go out into big crowds, agoraphobia, or just generally have gotten into the habit of being alone at home.
Sure.
Wow, that's some wonderful advice. We're definitely going to talk about that, but we do need to stop for a brief commercial break, and we will be right back.
You need jordansrooter.com. Get free estimates, 24-hour service, special discounts for seniors and veterans. That's jordansrooter.com. Have a home repair or some remodeling you need done? No problem. We can handle all that too. Give us a call today at 800-300-0358. At Jordan's Rooter, we take pride in our work and always make sure to get the job done right the first time. That's jordansrooter.com. We want to be your Mr. Fix-It.
I've had this problem.
Big problem.
I really needed
a good business consultant.
And I kept searching and searching.
There are so many choices.
It's really hard to find one that has all the things on my list. But I finally did it.
Yes. Thank you.
If you were looking for one as well, look no further.
Here's a really good one.
Just use mine.
Use mine.
I'm very satisfied.
Definitely recommend. Problem gone.
Thank you.
If you are just now tuning in to the Roundtable Talk Show, you missed 30 minutes of some interesting conversation. People had a lot of thoughts, a lot of points, a lot of things to say. So you definitely want to tune into this show from the archive. I was listening to what Minessa had to say, and I completely agree. I'm one of those people who is introverted, hardly ever leave my house. And it's not because of anxiety. I'm like, have you met people? I don't know.
Yeah, that's you echoing, I believe.
Thank you, Brett. You're so helpful. It cleared up now, though, after I muted a couple of people. So now it's good. And you wanted to say something before the break?
I did, actually. So, one of the top, I would say, 3 to 4 things that I talk about is eye contact. Eye contact, eye contact, eye contact. We as human beings have lost the ability to make what I consider to be effective eye contact. And these happen to be the 2 most powerful tools that we possess in our lives to communicate thoughts, emotions, feelings, vibes, etc. And one of the things that I believe it was Teresa said is she mentioned the grocery clerk. So, online it's hard for me to give eye contact education because we're limited. But one of the exercises that I give to my clients or my groups is tomorrow, when you go to the supermarket, make it a point to look the grocery clerk the cashier directly in his or her eyes and make a connection, because you never know what that's going to look like or feel like. And then the other thing is speaking to I forget your name. I don't have everyone's name in front of me right now. But in the interest of speaking vocally, melodically the right way. So you're not paying attention to this right now, but I can't help it. I can't shut it off. And oftentimes we hear people speak on what I call the upturn versus the downturn. So for example, what's your name? My name is Brett, and I own a company called the Persuasive Lion, versus my name is Brett, and I own a company called the Persuasive Lion. You'll hear it in outgoing voicemails. Hi, you've reached Brett, and I can't get to my phone right now, but if you'll please leave your name and number at the sound of the tone, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. However, if you paid attention to that melody, every single phrase in that sentence was positioned as a question, because it ends up on the upturn, versus,
right.
Hi, this is Brett, and I can't get to my phone right now. But if you will please leave your name and number at the sound of the tone, I will get back to you as soon as possible. Now, what I have found is, who pays attention to that? Nobody. However, it shifts the way the human mind, from the time we were little kids, it shifts the way the human mind reacts to that specific melody, which is why I say, outside of the words, which is 5% of what people pay attention to, the delivery of those words is going to be optimal or paramount in terms of how people react. These are trained skills. They are behavioral changes. Mm-hmm. But nobody pays attention. Nobody understands. And you can't pay attention to something, I could give you a variety of lessons here, but, one of the things that I teach is the stuff we know versus the stuff that we know that we don't know, versus the stuff that we don't know, and we don't even know we don't know it.
I think that's an excellent point. I'm going to go over to Casey. Casey, you've been sitting there quiet. People have been talking. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts. I guess if we stick along the same line, I agree with everything that's being said. But one thing I've noticed, being in business, speaking to groups of people, is that when you speak to a group of people, you say the same thing to the same group of people in the same way, in the same tone, the same melody, same everything, but people in that room will take it differently because it depends on their past experience. So that's one part of it, but it also has to do with the lens through which they see life, right? We can't just send people, for example, and say, go out and have human contact. Chances are, one thing we haven't talked about is media. So that's a big topic. But I feel like a lot of people who are following the mainstream media are probably scared to death to go out and have human interaction, right? So I think there's a bigger picture at play with everything there always is a bigger picture at play with everything that we're talking about. And I think each individual has to probably approach it in their own way, but we can probably agree that mental health is of top priority right now. And we need to figure out how to do that. And one thing I would say is take a dive from media, right? Stop watching the news, stop going through your social media, because all of that is just feeding in to the narrative that you already have because of how the algorithms work, because of how everything is controlled. You will just find more of what you're looking for. You need to actually work to find stuff that will challenge your thinking.
Good. I have two things I'd like to say, adding on to what Brett said. The first thing is, when you're in a situation, and I'm also going back after you're done in the bathroom and come back out, there are, and I'm sure everybody knows this, but for those in our audience that don't, there are igniter questions. And I learned this when I was being trained as a career counselor. And these are the type of questions where you can look the person in the eye and ask a question that will get them talking. So something like, where did you meet your wife? Where do you work? How long have you worked there? How is your family? And not talk about religion, politics, anything that is where a person could flame in terms of emotion. And if you remember these igniter questions, for me, it usually takes 3 questions before all of a sudden the person, I don't want to say they're telling me their life story, but they back off and their anxiety goes down. And I find that they do 90% of the talking. And I listen because people are so hungry for that human contact, hungry for somebody to look you in the eye and call them by their first name and just listen to what they have to say. And now I'd like to segue into a cashier story. This was the other day. And the headline here is, when you communicate your attitude. And attitude is a decision that you make every single day. You get out of bed, you have a bad attitude, bad results. Good attitude, good results. It's a lifestyle decision. So here I am tooling around the store in a handicap cart. I don't shop at this grocery store. And they have things laid out differently. They have the aisle that you usually go down and put your stuff on, and the little conveyor belt rolls. Instead, you drive up and you're literally behind the cash register. And so I pull up and she looks at me and she says very sourly, I'm waiting for you. Now, I made a split-second decision that instead of my hackles going up, I looked at her in the eye and I smiled. I glanced at her name tag and I said, this wasn't her name. Mary, I didn't realize that you were waiting for me. And then after that, all of a sudden her whole demeanor changed and she became friendly and animated. And I even talked to her about how crazy the layout is for checking out. And I said, well, what do you think about it? And she looked at me and I looked at her and I said, your eyes tell the story. And then she said, do you want somebody to trail you out to the car and put your groceries in your car? I said, no. I said, I'm fine. Thank you. My point being is, when you have those secondary, third connections, if you're getting treated poorly, smile it off, because you really don't know what's going on in their life. And here, this person had been on their feet since 8 a.m, working a double shift. I didn't know.
Yeah. Do you think we've lost some of our ability to be curious?
Absolutely.
I think curiosity has just, gone away from our culture. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's what also keeps us moving forward and growing as people, if we're curious, And to your point, we always kind of get, when we go out to dinner, we get kind of interested in our waiters and waitresses. Usually there's a college nearby, and, we'll strike up some conversation. But, I know this one waitress I talked to, she told me she was in art, and I've started painting, and I put my paintings on some clothing. And, but anyway, just that brief conversation where she told us that I think she was in design, and maybe interior design. And I said, do you paint? And she said, yes. And I said, have you ever thought about putting your painting on clothing? And I gave her the website. And, it's just little things like that, and I'm wondering if sometimes we aren't just losing this curiosity. And I also want to say, we're not giving ourselves enough credit. Sometimes, look at social media and then evaluate yourself. Are you healthy? Are you mentally healthy? No. Is anybody mentally healthy? Probably not,
I am.
Well,
I am.
You are. Okay.
So I was going to say, I feel very mentally healthy. I work really hard on my mental health.
Yes, I know. But you know what I mean? we can all just take ourselves down to this. Oh, I'm not okay. And maybe we should start telling ourselves, you know what? I am okay. And I tell people that, you are okay. You are fine. Now go start creating. Go start doing something. Get into action. when I started painting, my life changed. I only did that about I started about a year ago, seriously painting. And being creative at almost every day has changed my life. It has brought me so much joy. And, you get joy, you get dopamine, you get a dopamine hit when you get on social media and, they like your posts and that, and we're constantly after that. We're constantly after those dopamine hits. Well, what if you got that dopamine hit from something like you created by yourself? You made something out of nothing. That's going to even make you feel better. And, and you could say to yourself, hey, I'm okay. I'm creating. I'm powerful. I'm standing in my strength. That's just another take on it.
I'd like to add a little bit. I think that's great comments, Teresa. But I think also what we've done is to some extent, we feel like we're supposed to be happy all the time, like 24/7.
Right.
And that's just not reality, right? We have been blessed with all of these different emotions that we're supposed to experience as humans. And we've labeled the emotions as bad. Some of these emotions as bad and some of these emotions as good. And to me, they're just emotions. They're not bad or good. They're just there for part of the experience. They're there to tell you something. It's not bad to be angry or bad to be sad or good to be happy. It's just whatever the emotion is. And I think we need to embrace that, feel into the emotion, understand what it's trying to tell us, do the work on ourselves, and continue moving on, right? This is part of life. It's not going to be rainbows and unicorns all the time. It's not supposed to be.
Right.
Can I say two things about a couple things that Casey said?
Yes.
Okay, these are important. So first of all, Casey, one of the things you mentioned is that everybody comes from a different background, correct? We all come from different educational backgrounds, financial backgrounds, social backgrounds, religious backgrounds, ethical backgrounds. And what I've come to realize is that, we talk about perception. Well, perception, there's a very false cliche that says perception is reality, but that's not true at all. That's one of the very few cliches that are not true. Perception is just perception. And with the interest of that, we all come from very different backgrounds. Just because we're all, quote, human, doesn't mean we're all the same. We're all equal, but we're not all the same, right? Just like a Doberman Pinscher is a dog, but so is a Chihuahua. And they're very different in their levels of affection, aggression, diet, trainability, longevity, blah, blah, blah. That's humans. So when we communicate with humans, we have to understand that we're dealing with different types of creatures that require a different level of communication.
Good.
And delivery. 100%. So for me as a communications expert, what I try and do is teach people, you have to control the temperature of the conversation. So if I consider myself, quote unquote, the persuasive lion, right? I'm not expecting you to be a deer or a giraffe or a rhinoceros or a rabbit that understands lion. I'm going to do my best to be a lion that understands your language and communicates on your level. And that's such a big factor in the fact that human beings are so egotistical.
Yes.
That we think that because we think a certain way and we deliver our message in a certain way, that you should just undeniably understand and react to what we're saying in the way that we would expect you to. But that could not be the farthest thing from the truth. And that is why so much gets lost in translation between human beings of different backgrounds. We're not all the same. The only thing that we have that is similar, even remotely similar, is this one thread that we call instinct.
Yes, I definitely agree. Now, I will say, though, I have heard that expression, and I understand it when people say your perception is your reality. It's your reality. It's something that you believe to be true. And so because you believe this thing is true, you operate from the basis that it is true, but it's not necessarily true.
Not even remotely close to the truth, by the way, Sharifah. Not even close. Not even close. Can I show you one quick example that'll take 2 minutes?
Yes. 30 seconds.
All right. So if I showed you this and you didn't know what that was, here's the reality that this thing is whatever it is, right? But if I showed you this and you didn't know what it was, you would describe it in a certain way. And then if I showed you this, you would describe the exact same reality in a completely different way. What if I showed you this? What if I showed you this? It's all reality, but everyone's perception, if I would have put this on a stand and have people stand any one of an infinite amount of ways around it, their perception of it would be their perception, but the reality would remain the same. So therefore, perception is just perception. It's not reality. It's just the way we perceive reality. And that's the way human interaction and lack of communication and misunderstanding and lost in translation happens every single second of every single day.
I definitely see the perception. I also see people moving forward based on their reality. Were you going to say something, Minessa?
I was, but I think I need a little bit of time in terms of like to phrase it, because I get what I understand where you're going with this, Brett, but like I'm wondering, because like Sharifah, I understand the question you were asking too. I just don't know that I have a way to put those two together, because I think I am curious to like, because it's like perception is not reality. It's just your sorry, Brett, can you say what you said again, the last sentence that you just said?
I said perception is just perception.
Okay.
Reality, this is reality.
Yes.
How we look at it, from what angle, right?
So can I
from
pause and
whatever
ask you a
angle we
question
look
there?
at it, that's how we perceive that reality.
Right. So my
But
question
the
for you,
fixed reality doesn't change.
right? But my question for you is, right, and this is I'm just trying to understand, because I really like this idea and I'm really massaging my way through it. Okay. So if my so that's if it's my reality, so you're showing me it on, face on, I'm describing it this way, right? So I say this is the reality, okay? And I'm going to insist that that's the reality, no matter how much you argue with me, I'm going to say, no, it's a pink box. And you're like, no, it's a cell phone. And I'm like, that's the reality. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand. It's not a cell phone. It's a pink box. That's what I see. Can you massage that area for me a little bit? Because that's the part I don't understand, because this is my reality.
It comes down to everything that I talk about ties together. It comes down to why a rhinoceros looks at life differently than a gorilla, and why a gorilla looks at life differently than a rabbit. We all have different perceptions of what this is. And it all boils down to how do we communicate with one another? Because realistically, let's think about this. In the real world, in the natural world, not this unusual world that we're all thrown into together, this melting pot, right? A giraffe will never, ever, ever, from birth to death, talk to a rabbit about making a play date for their kids. They won't do it. It's either kill or be killed. They have their perception and the other animal has their perception. But we as humans are forced into this very unnatural setting where we have to perceive things not only through our own lenses, but through the lenses of everybody else that we're working with, especially in the workforce, right? In our personal lives, in our family lives, we get to pick and choose who we want to be around. But in work world, we have to be in front of people that perceive things and analyze things and react to and evaluate things very, very differently than the way we were raised. And so I always say, as a person who I believe to be a master communicator, we have to take responsibility for the temperature and the control of that conversation. So that, like I said, I'm not going to be a lion expecting you to speak lion. I'm going to be a lion who understands how to communicate with you as a rabbit.
That is very, very interesting. Interesting point. Yeah. I mean, I see it both ways, but I also understand the statement. And what was kind of interesting to me in introducing the guest today, we have a master communicator who was the only one who didn't allow me to introduce him. So it's like communication to me is like a two-way street. It's very interesting. And I think we can go on with this conversation for at least another couple of hours. Unfortunately, we
couple of months.
Yes. Brett, I know we could talk for hours and go back and forth based on our perception and our reality, but we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we only have a few minutes, but we are going to start with you, Teresa.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and to that last segment, I also teach a communication skill, and it is based on knowing yourself and knowing others. And I teach it through multiple intelligences. And it's just like, the different animals, it's the different intelligences that we have. If we can understand ourselves and other people, we can kind of meet in the middle, so to speak, and have a good, have an influence over people. And I had to do this all the way during all my therapy. It couldn't be my way or the highway. It had to be, you have these intelligences and we're going to use them to get you further in your therapy. And also, I just want to say that, groups, like I said, it's good to be in groups. It's also good to have diverse groups, because that brings a lot to the table. And if you want to be creative and think outside the box and do some great things, get that diverse group around you. Come from your strengths and know that you are okay. And it's okay to put yourself in the world, because you're a unique individual and the world needs you.
And where can people find you, Teresa?
They can find me at teresamur.com. And I also have an art website. It's teresa-mer.pixels.com. But you can find that on my website. Thanks.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure having you. This is a very diverse group. Damian, what do you have for the people?
Well, I'll be real quick because I know time is ticking. If you want to get in touch with me, it's jobsearching.org, or you can always email Damian.Berkel1@gmail. What I'd like everybody to take away is I've been there. I understand what it was like for me. I can't imagine what it's like for you, but there is a common process that you can utilize to find a job when you're ready. And also, I'd like to extend holiday greetings to Sharifah, to the folks with us, our guests, and most of all to our viewers. Thank you.
You are so welcome, and I receive that. Thank you. That's so kind of you. Casey.
Yeah, thanks, Sharifah, and thanks, Minessa, and Brett, and Damian, and Teresa. I think I got all the names. This was a great conversation, and for myself, it's funny that we're talking about communication, because I actually have a webinar coming up that I'm giving in 1 hour, so 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the time zone I'm in, and it's for contractors. And it's going to be a lot of it based around communication, but it's how to keep jobs from going south. But we do a lot of on the Conscious Builder Academy. It's a lot of mindset and a lot of making sure that you know how to communicate both with your team, with your customers, and to keep the jobs going in the direction you want and grow your business. So it's all based on contractors. But the best place to go to find all of our stuff is just theconsciousbuilder.com/Instagram. And we actually have all the links for anything that we're doing, and our YouTube, everything's there. So lots of stuff happening. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Coming. You're welcome. We'll get those Conscious Builder work boots coming soon. Mr. Brett.
Hey. So look, my website is www.thepersuasivelion.com. I offer keynote speeches for large corporations. I do seminar and group coaching for personal and business group workshops. And I do one-on-one coaching. Once a month, I'm going to do a free 45-minute introductory workshop that will engage you in the possibility of doing a 2 to 3 day weekend workshop, which will then potentially engage you in doing one-on-one coaching or doing a workshop or a keynote for your corporation. I know these skills are of enormous value, and I'm very passionate about teaching people how to do this. I know I can't change the world, but I can influence my circle of people to communicate better with their friends, their family, their business associates, and then most importantly, which we didn't really get into, is how do you communicate more effectively with yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't have enough time. You got to come back, Brett.
I'll be back whenever you want.
AskSharifah.com. And AskSharifah.com. That's what Minessa did. Just grab
I like this whole platform. I like you. I like your team. I like this whole thing. And I'll be back whenever you want me.
Okay, grab a seat on AskSharifah.com. Minessa, what did you think? You came back, your second appearance. What did you think?
Oh my God, it's brilliant. I have so many more appearances. I scheduled as many as I can. They're amazing. I loved it as always. I feel like I'm so much smarter. I think the one takeaway that I would love for people to take with them is what Brett said. The skills that he's talking about changed my entire life, and the way that you talk to yourself, when you can change that, you can change anything. I work specifically with people who have chronic illnesses or anxiety or mental illnesses, and I work with them in helping them to create more successful businesses. So what I want to recommend is go out there, make eye contact with somebody, go to a networking meeting, something like that. If you need help making connections with people for your business, follow me or find me at Minessa.com, Minessa.com. I will help you through that process. And Sharifah, my God, you were amazing. Thank you so much for creating this space for us. It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for continuing to join me. I definitely appreciate you. I want to thank you all for being guests on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch this show live, as well as everyone who is watching in the archives. I definitely appreciate your support. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you sharing. But the most important thing to me is that you support our guests. Our guests are here this morning to help you, to give you their expertise, their stories, to share their knowledge with you. So please support them. Their website links is in the Facebook post. Visit their websites, follow them on social media, reach out to them, send them a message. And when you do, please let them know Sharifah Hardie says hi. Now, if you're interested in more ways that I can help your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit my website at AskSharifah.com. Until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, everyone have a safe